Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you're having an amazing day. We're going to go ahead and take a quick look at Bitcoin, kind of see what's going on here, of course. And big picture, what's the deal? I get the question a lot here right now, hey, are we going to break to the upside here soon? It seems like it's trying to, push and, it's consolidating at a resistance. So we're going to find out exactly what that looks like. And of course, if you're new to the channel, not a financial advisor, I just love teaching people how to trade. This is my day job. I do this every day for a living, and I can tell you it's a wonderful life. Honestly, it's not that difficult. And I know it sounds stupid when you hear that out loud, because obviously there's a lot of ups and downs. But generally speaking, you have good risk tolerance, you have good things that you have in place, you're going to be just fine. I hopefully can share that with you here today and just in general over the course of my videos. So try to learn something here if you're new. If you're a return viewer, of course, thank you again so much for your support. Let's take a look here now at Bitcoin, kind of see what's going on. Well, straightforward as it gets, we are still in a downward trend. We're trying to push back up, of course, trying to break that lower high, lower low pattern, but not much is really happening in that sense. Now, yesterday was a decent day, right? So we did have a break above that key level resistance of right around 37,000. That is now the potential support. Just bear in mind, price is getting stopped out right around 38,000, and we'll see here soon in the next 48 hours exactly what that means for us. Now, again, I know it's kind of frustrating because I think every video I say we got to wait till this happens to find out what's going to happen next. But generally speaking, that's how you have to do it with Bitcoin right now. It's extremely volatile, and it's being very difficult, you could say. Even though yes, it's slowly progressing upwards and it's looking nice, there's a lot of weird movement in the meantime, right? So just try to be aware of the fact that Bitcoin is not really behaving all that well, and it's tumultuous and difficult in some cases right now to consider trading. And I know that sounds unfortunate and crazy because there are some coins that have taken off a little bit, but for the most part, any major correction from Bitcoin, which could even be a 1% correction, has a tendency of sending out a significant ripple to the other coins in the industry. All right, so the market is kind of weird right now. With it being a weekend too, we have lower volume, and that can breed some strange results in a lot of ways, because there are some folks out there that have a lot of money, they're buying and selling, but for the most part, the whales are taking the weekend off, and we're seeing kind of a bit of a lull, but still an increase here as well. Just be mindful of the fact that that could very well turn around at any time. So let's go and take a look at specific indicators here. 50-day SMA is working its way down, and the 200 is trending sideways. So pretty standard behavior right now. Until we get back up over the 50-day SMA on the one-day chart, I would still consider this to be bearish for the most part. We still need to break above this trend line as well. That is slowly working its way down as the price comes over. So there's a chance we might be able to break that trend line here in the near future. I would say the next couple weeks, that's definitely a likelihood. We'll definitely know within the next week if we can break that trend or not. But for now, we're definitely under the 50-day SMA. We did kind of tentatively break above this key level resistance here, or this descending type of pattern on the RSI. Now, again, this is very tentative because this one-day candlestick hasn't closed yet. But if you consider yesterday's close, it did kind of break that pattern. So essentially, in a case, we are potentially moving upwards, if you will, right? We're showing better signs of a continuation of the upside than the downside, and that is a good thing for Bitcoin, okay? So ultimately, that's kind of what we're looking at there. Again, I'm still bearish on the big picture as far as the macro, just still in this descending type of pattern. We haven't shown any strength above this level yet, so until we break that, I'm not fully committed to taking a strong long position, if you will, or one that will effectively break this pattern until we get above that trend line, okay? But the smaller stuff here, of course, RSI is kind of telling us that we're having that shift in momentum. We're no longer getting rejected by that decline, and the likelihood of it continuing either upwards or going side and bouncing up, sideways, bouncing up 30 on the RSI is higher. Okay, that's awesome. So we like to see that. We also have a convergence in the MACD as well, albeit not very strong. It's still kind of a shift in momentum, letting us know that we're back up on track. Just bear in mind, the last couple of times we've done this, right, we've got a couple of dead cats where we had a MACD convergence, the price comes up and inevitably comes down, comes up and down again, right? So it's that natural flow that you have in a bearish type of trend, okay? So again, whether the smaller time frame, the micro, tells us or anything or not of this transition that we're likely seeing, the big picture is still confirming that we're in a downtrend, And until we break above, in my personal opinion, 40,500 or 40,000 in general, we're still going to be considered, I would say, in this scenario of just lower highs and lower lows, right? We need to be able to break that lowest point from before in order to get free and clear, okay? So again, I know I'm broken, sound like a broken record here, but generally speaking, we're not fully there yet. So trying to get super excited. You could also argue that we have a cup and handle type of pattern forming. I think that's a bit of a stretch, but it's definitely potential. I don't really care for cup and handle patterns on smaller time frames, but in general, I do think that that is, it's testing this resistance level a second time, right? That's the acknowledgement there, and that's a good sign because you can see that the price could not pass 38,000. It's wicked up a couple of times. Yes, that was a strange news day there. And then here, of course, we've had roughly, 16 to 20 hours of attempt to try to break 38,000 and hasn't yet, okay? Now, the low amount of volume has a lot to do with that. It's hard to break a key level resistance when you have less volume because it could literally be one whale or one, what do we call them? Like a baby whale, so to speak, a calf, I think they're referred to as. A calf could come in here and essentially sway the market in their favor over the weekend if they want to, because there's a lot less volume, right? Less volume, more volatility, and in turn, we can get that resistance level to hold essentially throughout the weekend. So what that basically just means is the fact that, we do have a nice, ascending type of pattern here, right? So traditionally speaking, you could say that the price will break to the upside. I think that is a possibility. We could see a break to the upside, but again, how long will it last, right? It could very well break to the upside here today, and then tomorrow we might see a correction once the whales are back in play. Or the inverse could apply, of course, as well. But generally speaking, if we look at some other indicators here, we're up over 50 and under 70 on the RSI. That's a good sign. So I'd say the midterm looks pretty good here. The 4-hour looks very good in that sense because we're still up over key level resistance. Even though we're not really converging in the MACD, we're not really losing that momentum either. We're pretty much consolidating in between 37 and 38,000. Okay, that's okay. If we build more of a foundation of volume at that point, we're going to be able to allow for the price to continue to progress upwards. So if you look at this small time frame here, roughly this is since the 13th, that's roughly about 2.5 weeks of trading. You've seen the most amount of volume right here at about 36,500. So that's a nice little volume support, you could say. And the likelihood of the price coming down below that is fairly low unless you have a strong amount of selling pressure. We're not going to see that over the weekend. So for right now, it's going to be kind of just fair to middling and kind of just coasting, if you will. Once again, wait until Monday or Tuesday comes around to see officially what the sentiment is there. And also note as well, there's more news coming out, right? This whole inflation thing, the whole just that whole process is kind of screwing with the market in general. And we need to be aware of the fact that is kind of shifting the overall sentiment, right? We're still in a fear, uncertainty, and doubt type of market. Until that fear, uncertainty, and doubt can get up over 30 or maybe even 40, then we're going to be in a position where we're going to continue to see this. All right, so again, not terrible, but not great. 4-hour, I would say, is a little bit better than not, but generally speaking, the overall sentiment is still kind of just average. Looking at the 1 hour though, let's go ahead and see if there's any kind of buy signals. We pretty much actually technically have a sell signal here because again, the price has been so stagnant that we literally have the Ichimoku cloud saying if you have a long position, you want to consider closing it soon because the lagging span is coming in to the price action. Okay, so the lagging span, once that intersects with price action, you want to consider closing your position. Conversion line's above the baseline. We are above the cloud too. So, right, we have a nice little support there. 2 out of 3 things are firing here, right? So it's not to say you should close your position per se, right? You give a long hodl portfolio account, don't listen to that. That's not the case. You might want to consider dollar cost averaging if you haven't already. Because again, 37,000 for Bitcoin is still very low compared to where it likely will be someday. Right, we got to understand that. But for the moment, the short term, so to speak, I don't think that this is a great signal. It's basically just telling us we're losing that momentum. And I don't know, the likelihood of it pushing up, I would say, is still there considering we're ascending in this type of wedge pattern. But the likelihood of it also, just shooting straight up or going up really high, really fast is very low. The cloud is basically a conservative indicator telling us that we might want to consider, taking our profits if we are in some type of a day trade or short-term swing trade. Okay, so if you got into your trade 1 or 2 days ago, you may want to consider taking your profits by now, right? That's kind of what it's telling us. Other than that, not much else to really note. TD sequential is going to tell us we got a bunch of resets here, which is very standard. Let's take a look at the TD sequential on the 1 day though. We are at a 5, and just something to kind of note that we have been at 5s before, and the price comes down and loses. In fact, for the most part, momentum for TD sequential, in other words, anytime we hit like a 5 or a 6, we've notoriously come down after that. So I think if we hit a 6 tomorrow, there is a strong chance, again, if we're to continue in this bearish trend, we will see a reset and the price will continue to come down. We'll likely see a red day on Monday with that same sentiment in mind. Again, there's no guarantees of this, but if you see, for the most part, anytime the prices came up to do a dead cat, we'll see a 6, and in this case, it was a 5. And that was just before the price digressed and effectively came down. Again, there's no guarantees in this, of course. TD sequential really just helps us understand if we're at a state of market exhaustion, at least in regards to how many days in a row can you continue in a certain direction. We're seeing 5 days of continuation so far since the bottom, right? That's all well and good, but the likelihood of it going up past 9 is less, right? We have a less likelihood of it coming up past 9, and anytime it's tried to correct itself and recover, we've seen a 6 and a 5. Right, so we're at a 5 today. If we see a 6 tomorrow, there's a good chance we may see a reset down to to push back down if it can't break this trend line. Okay, again, there's a lot of things we got to factor in, but generally speaking, that's kind of what we're looking at here for Bitcoin. So I would say, in summary, we should expect to see a little bit more of a green 24 to 48 hours. Right, I think we could see the price try to break that trend line of 38,000. If we were to consolidate above 38,000, hold above 38,000, that'd be an awesome scenario. That'd be very helpful going into the actual work week or the trading week, right? But we still need to be kind of, I wouldn't say sit on your hands per se, but I would recommend being very careful with how you invest right now, just based on the fact that it's still kind of on a razor's edge, so to speak. And we need definitive proof that we're breaking this trend line. And we still need at least 1 week's worth of consolidation, even though we have a moderate foundation of volume there. To break that trend line and or 40,500. Okay, so that's kind of my thoughts there. We'll take another look, of course, tomorrow as per usual, but we're not in dire straits here by any means. It's just that I still think we might see one more test down to 33,000. That's just kind of a gut feeling that I have, and I've totally been wrong before, right? I'm not 100% all the time, but it is shaping up to do another deceitful shift, and I don't like it. But, again, short-term holds, 24, 48 hours, I guess that's all well and good, but I would even recommend not even bothering with it right now. Bitcoin is not pretty for the moment, and this weekend, I guess, behavior is not ideal in my personal opinion. Okay, I hope you found benefit here and I didn't cause more questions than answers, but sometimes you just kind of got to take a step back and realize that maybe now is not the best time to trade. We need a little bit more confirmation, and I would recommend just waiting a little bit longer until we can confirm we're back on track and we break some of these key level resistances. Hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.